Okay, so now you did yesterday, Sherry. A lot of people, like I said, are on today. Sherry sent out the slides along with some handouts. So if you did not get the slides or the handouts, they are still located in other documents. They are under the Food Service Management Company section. We put everything underneath there. So the handouts, again, everything is under Food Service Management Company. Under that section, we didn't want to get it kind of messed. We didn't want anybody getting into it that really didn't need it. So it's not under training. It is under Food Service Management Company. There are some terms that you will need to know. These are just some helpful hints, like ARs for administrative review, SFA is for school food authority. So when we refer to some terms, you can refer to this slide right here. Now, the main book that you should be looking at whenever you are wanting to fill out the RFP is this book right here. This is the guidance. This is the USDA guidance book for food with contracting for food service management companies. This is located in other documents under Food Service Management Company. I'm actually going to ask a quick poll. I just want to see who our audience is today. I know we have some staff on here. So you don't have to answer the poll if you don't want to. But my question to you is, who best describes you that's listening? Are you an employee of the school and you're currently using a food service management company? Are you with a district and thinking about going with food service management company, or are you employed by a food service management company? And then the second question is, how long have you been working with the food service management companies, not the district? So let's just say you're new to a district, but they've been using a food service management company for 10 years, but you've never dealt with one before. So you're new in dealing with the food service management company. It just kind of gives me an idea of who the audience is and kind of what we need to discuss. And I'll give this just a few more seconds. All right. Well, a good number of you was able to pull in. So a lot of you are currently using, some of you are thinking about it. And again, a few of you are with the food, that you are employed by the Food Service Management Company. And some of you are just learning, which is great. And a lot of you, the majority of you are newer to the Food Service Management Company. So how this training works is we're going through, like, if you are brand new and you need to go through the process, or maybe you're up for renewal. So it goes through the contracts part of it. And then we go through what the responsibilities are, which is really good because it doesn't really matter how long you've been on, you still need to know your responsibility. A lot of people, when they go with a food service management company, they think they could just wash their hands of child nutrition, be like, well, they're taking care of it. And it's actually quite the opposite. The school district has more duties when you have a food service management company than when you do not, because you do have to make sure that they're doing their job, and you do need to make sure everything is going according to plan. You still have control over child nutrition. So this book right here, again, is a really, really good book. I can't, it's the last one out there. It's from 2016. That's the latest one that's been updated. You will see a lot of yellow in it. And that's because from the previous one that USDA did, the stuff in there that is yellow is highlighted. But this hasn't changed since 2016, but you really do need to look at this book when you are going with a food service management company. It lets you know what the requirements are. As the state of Oklahoma, we really don't have much going above and beyond what these regulations state. In this manual on page 5 through 9, of that is where you'll find, sorry about that, I got a frog in my throat. You'll find the listed terms on page 5 through 9. So that's the glossary of terms that you can go to when going to this book. I can't stress enough how important this book is. We refer to this all the time when we are looking, well, one with the RFP, but when you guys have questions, this is the book that we go to. And I know since Jennifer and Becky are watching, if some of the questions I Since I've been home, I wasn't prepared to be, I thought I'd be at work this week. And so I have this pulled up, but I don't have my hard copy with me, which I love to refer to whenever I need to look at the book. But the objective of this course today is to evaluate the reasons why you do want to go with a food service management company. You do need to understand the responsibilities of both the district and for the food service management company. You do need to obtain general understanding of the procurement process and know where to find further information and assistance. Again, you can always contact our office. That's what we're here for. You can always contact Becky, Jennifer, myself. But the books and the tools that we give you are things that we use. So it's not like everything that we give you is what we use in the office as well. So some important things to remember is when you contract a food service management company, it does not release the district from any responsibilities of child nutrition. So you are still, the school district is still responsible for child nutrition. Just because you have somebody coming in and helping you does not mean that you relinquish control of that. When you procure the services, you must ensure free and open competition. And if a food service management company is going to submit a proposal, they cannot have any part in writing the solicitation. So this is up to the district. The district has to be the one. We're going to talk about the RFP, but you can add addendums. And this needs to come from the school, not from a food service management company telling you to write an addendum of this is how you need to do it. And the district should analyze the food service operations to determine what best meets the needs for the district. And this is really, really important, especially for those thinking about going with food service management company, because what people don't understand when you go with the food service management company, it may not be in the best interest of your school district. You need to really look at your current operations to see if this is something that you do need to do, or maybe something that you should not go forward with. And also, I will stress it over and over and over again. But so the contract is it's a 5-year renewal. So it's a 1-year-to-year contract. You can go with the food service management company for 1 year and decide this is not a good fit for our district, and you can stop the contract after a year. Or if you said, we've had this also where the company that you chose just wasn't a good fit and you go back out for rebid. You can do that if you want. Just because you went with this company, it doesn't mean that you have to be with them for 5 years, that you can stop that renewal at the end of the year. And actually in the RFP, you can terminate the contract, even I think it's, you choose between 30 and I believe 30 or 60 days. If something happens, you can terminate the contract. So where do you start? So in the next few slides, we're going to go through the responsibilities of the school district when it comes to the RFP and the food service management company. So again, you really do need to take a look at that, the contracting with food service management company guidance for school food authorities. Again, this can be found in CARS and other documents under the food service management company section. This is where number one, where you need to start, because you're going to have questions, and this book right here is going to be able to answer those questions for you. Now, step 2, you need to put a team together, and this team is actually going to not just be for when you're going through the RFP process, but this team you're also going to continue using as long as you're using a food service management company. The team may differentiate some. There's going to be certain things that the school district has to do with teams, but you do need to analyze your current child nutrition program. You need to conduct a competitive procurement via the RFP. You'll have to negotiate the final contract. So this team is going to be the one that will, you guys will be deciding which company that you will be using. And again, if it's the best fit for your district. You also have to monitor this contract. Again, control and monitor all aspects of child nutrition program to ensure compliance with the rules and regulations, and ensure that the food service management charges are correct and that all costs are allowable. So this team's going to be quite important, again, not just going through the RFP purposes, but going forward after you have already awarded the bid. This team is still going to be doing things when it comes to the food service management company. You do need to analyze your current food service operation. You need to identify current cost of operation in relation to the number of reimbursable meals. This is by taking your average daily participation, take all your food costs, your labor, supply, equipment, and employee benefits, and then your use of USDA foods. You also should analyze your non-fiscal aspects, such as like your wellness policy, your nutrition lessons, farm to school, smart snacks, and determine the benefits and consequences. So what people tend to, so there's several reasons why people will go with the food service management company, but what some people tend to forget is when you go with the food service management company, they charge you price per meal. And that price per meal is for all meals. It doesn't matter if the meal is free, reduced, or paid. So if they're going to charge you, say, $3.50, they're going to charge you $3.50 for every meal that you serve. Again, it doesn't matter if it's free, reduced, or paid. And a lot of schools don't think about that. They just think about the free kids. It's for every meal. And then also, sometimes what you really need to do is, again, analyze your costs. And I understand this is a very unusual time. Some people, they go with the food service management company. They feel that they can get more labor. Well, really, a food service management company is pulling from the same labor pool that you would pull from. They don't like bus people from Oklahoma City to your rural town. They're still pulling from the same labor aspects. And then maybe it's just your food costs are high. And again, I know this is kind of a weird year because of inflation. I know with supply chain issues, I get all of that. But in a normal year, sometimes maybe it's just your food cost was high and you guys could have just procured differently, or maybe you go with a different vendor and your food cost would have lowered. So these are just some things that you really need to take a look at your current operations and figure out if this is a really good step for your program, or maybe you just need to make some tweaks to your current program that might make it better. Maybe it's just menu changes. Sometimes it's like the kids aren't eating, so you're like, well, let's go with the food service management company. Well, maybe you just need to change your menus. So people really forget that step of analyzing their current food service operation, because that's the number one thing that you should be doing, and understanding why you want to go with a food service management company. And again, determine the benefits and the consequences. Now, step number 4 is to determine whether contracting with the food service management company, again, is it best for your program? If it's not, continue with your self-operation. Again, work on improvements. You can always contact your program specialist. So your program specialist is your consultant. We have changed the name of your consultant, so you can always work with them and contact them. I actually have a friend that works for a school district right now, and their biggest issue is just the menu. So they just want to make tweaks to their menu. So again, you can contact your food program specialist, and they may even have some ideas if they came out recently to do a review about maybe what could help with your program. If you do decide that this is the best step that you would like to take, you do need to contact the State Department, because you are required to use our prototype RFP. So you'll contact Becky Gray to get that RFP. So once all the steps are completed, then you make the decision if you want all of your program or just part of it. So thanks, Becky. Thanks for putting your email address into the chat. So you can do all aspects, meaning like they charge you fixed price per meal, and then they cover the food and the management of the program. You can do partial of it where you still buy all the food, but they kind of do the menu planning and the management of the program. So again, you will contact Becky Gray if you do want the RFP. We've had it also where people have filled out the RFP, they sent out the RFP, but then they decided not to go with a food service management company. You can go as far into the process as you need to, but make the best decision for your school district. So now what? So you obtain the state prototype for the RFP. And again, this year it's going to be in a Word document. Carefully review the prototype. You cannot make changes to the RFP. The only thing that you are allowed to do is you can add an addendum. So if there's anything above the RFP that you want for your district, then you can have an addendum. You'll need to write the addendum on school letterhead and it describe in there like what you want. We had one the other day that sent in an addendum, and sometimes we will tell you like, because we have to approve everything. Everything that you do with the food service management company, the State Department, we have to review it and approve it. Now, sometimes you may be requesting something and you don't realize it was in the RFP. So we may tell you where it is located in the RFP and to strike out the addendum. But some people have put in there, and I'll talk about a little bit of the changes, but some people in the past have added, like, if you want your employees to go with the food service management company after they retire, then you can ask for a transition plan. But if there's anything above the contract, you have to put it in an addendum and send the addendum to our office before you can send that out. Again, everything that you do with an RFP has to have our approval. It's quite an intense process, but again, nothing you do, everything has to be approved by our office. There's just no bottom line. That's it. If you are doing something that was not approved from our office, it really should not have been paid for with child nutrition funds. So again, this RFP that we have, we only have a fixed price contract. That's the only thing that's available to you. We feel that's the best. Before even the fixed price, we only had one that did cost reimbursable, but we find with the fixed price, it's a set meal price. And we find it much easier and the cost is much more predictable. All now when it comes to USDA foods, there's no pre-crediting. So once you do receive USDA foods, the food service management company does credit you on a monthly invoice. And then all other food charged is done by a meal equivalency. Nothing when you use a food service management company, nothing can be direct billed. Everything is based on this fixed meal price done by meal equivalency. So it's like, we've had some people in the past where they're like, well, I'm going to charge you outside of the contract. You cannot charge anything outside of the contract. Nothing can be direct billed. If something like that does occur, then it is a possible that you would have to rebid your RFP out, because that is not, you cannot do anything that is direct billed. Everything is this fixed price based on meal equivalency. So this fixed price contract, again, it's based on the unit charge per meal served. So it's for every breakfast and lunch and snack. So it's based on a lunch equivalency. And then your breakfasts are divided into 2 of this lunch equivalency, and snack is divided by 3. It gives you a good project at the cost of the operating the program. And this includes direct cost of operations, the administrative fee, and the management fee. Everything that they're charging you for is in this one fixed price contract. Again, they cannot charge you anything. So if you're wanting everything contracted out, meaning that they pay for the food, they pay for the labor, they pay for all of that, it's in the fixed price. They cannot charge you separately from that fixed price. Again, price per meal cannot change throughout the contract period, even due to economic fluctuations or COVID. We get this call a lot. It doesn't matter what the price is. Every year during the renewal, it is up to the school district, and the food service management company can have to negotiate it. But if they want to raise the price in the next fiscal year, they can, but it's only according to the CPI. They cannot go over the CPI. If the district does not want the price raised, that is up to the district. So it is the district's responsibility if you want the price raised, but they cannot go past that CPI. You cannot, just because we're in a pandemic, you cannot charge more than the CPI, period. So we get that question a lot. We heard that they may be giving 25 cents extra in the meal cost in lunch. Again, you cannot ask for that for food service management company. There's no COVID price, there's just a price. And that's the price that you bid on. So you cannot ask for any more money than raising above that CPI. What is best for the district? So what do you want the food service management company to do for your programs? And how do you want those services performed? How do you envision the program would look under the food service management company? And are there any services, equipment, menu choices, nutrition education? Are there anything like that that you do want? And what aspects of your current program do you want to keep, and what aspects do you want changed? So I will tell you this. So when you fill out the RFP, and maybe you're currently not doing the CACFP at-risk program, but you may want to do it in the future. If there's a program that you may or may want to do in the future, you do need to make sure you mark it on the RFP. And just because it's marked on the RFP does not mean that the food service management company has to be the one to do it as well. So let's say you mark fresh fruit and vegetable. You've never had it before in the past, but you were able to get the grant this year. But maybe you're deciding, okay, hey, we did have it marked in the RFP, but the school district is going to go ahead and handle the fresh fruit and vegetable program, and not the food service management company. The school district always has full control, again, of child nutrition. Just because it's marked in the RFP does not mean that the food service management company has to do it. And just because it's marked in there, it doesn't mean the school district has to do it. Again, you could mark every program, and we actually suggest that you mark every program in the RFP just in case of the future, because if you don't mark it and then you need it, it can create some issues possibly further down the road. So when you're completing the RFP, what information does the food service management company need? So you have to gather a bunch of information, because they do need to know this whenever they're going to bid on the program. They need to know the number of sites, the ages that you're serving, your enrollment, and your average daily participation. They do need to know your meal service hours, your child nutrition programs the district is currently participating in. And again, if there are any programs that you possibly want in the future, go ahead and mark them in the RFP as well. Sorry about that. And then how are the responsibilities? How are they divided between the district and the food service management company? And how are the costs divided? Again, the school district is the one that is going to dictate this information, and it's all in the RFP, and you have to go by what's in the RFP. If you want to change, we've had this happen. So say you decide that you're going to keep all your employees, and then the next year you're like, you know what, I think we're going to have all the employees go food service management company. If you mark in the RFP that they're all district employees, then you have to rebid the RFP differently, because everybody has to have the same opportunity to bid on that RFP. And if you change it, then you have to stop the contract and go out for rebid, so everybody again can bid on the same RFP. So again, what information does the food service management company need? They also need your USDA foods entitlement and usage. They need your current personnel, salaries, and benefits, especially if they're going to go with the food service management company. You have two options in the RFP. You have it to where, actually there's multiple options. You can have the employees be all district employees. You can have it to where you have both SFA employees and food service management company employees. You can pick which ones you wanted to go to the food service management company and which ones you want to stay with the district. You can also have everybody be a food service management employee. And the most common one that is marked on the RFP is one that they remain employees of the district, but once people leave and once people retire, then any employee that is picked up, then the food service management company will take that employee. So those are some options that you have when it does come to personnel in the RFP. They do need to look at your wellness policy. What are things that you expect for them to do regarding wellness? They need to see your policies that affect child nutrition programs, like on your weather days, your emergency procedures, maybe your smart snack. Any information that allows the food service management company to create a proposal that fits your needs. So again, you do need to give them this information. It is asked for in the RFP. A lot of you have have been with one, but the RFP is around 80 pages long. So it's not short. And you do have to fill out most of those pages. There's quite a bit of information in there, but again, it's all regulatory. It's all everything that USDA requires to be in an RFP. Now, one thing we cannot stress enough, and I talked to Becky about it this week or last week, is the 21-day cycle menu. So when you submit your RFP, the school district is required to submit a 21-day cycle menu. The food service management company is required for the first 21 days to follow that menu. No ifs, ands, or buts, it's required. So when you submit your RFP to us, you have to submit a 21-day menu cycle, not a 20-day, not an 18-day. It has to be at least 21 days. Again, the food service management company is required to follow it. If you put on your menu that you want bologna and cheese sandwich, and we check the menu has to be a reimbursable meal, and we will send it back to you if it is not. So we'll make sure that you hit your weekly requirements, but you do whatever you put on your menu for that 21 days, the food service management company is required to follow that. Now, after the 21 days, it is allowed that the food service management company you have to agree upon it, but there can be changes to that menu. But again, it has to be approved in writing by the district. So, and I understand that's why a lot of people go with the food service management company, is because of the food that they offer. But you can work on your menus, and this is something that your team will also talk about. You do have to have a team, like we talked about, going once you have a food service management company on your team. A lot of it is at least once or twice a year, your team has to meet, and we suggest students and teachers, and you guys talk about menus. You talk about your food service management company menus, and that is a question in the procurement review. If you go with the food service management company, we have to see documentation of your team's meeting and what you talked about. So again, once we give you the RFP, you fill out the RFP. You have to send it back to our office for approval. We have to make sure that nothing was changed and that you filled out everything that you were supposed to fill out. Now, I can't stress it enough, and especially like right now, again, like with our office this past couple of weeks, we've been teleworking, and we've had COVID hit, and it's just been a roller coaster. So you do need to allow us up to 3 to 4 weeks to look at your RFP, especially like at this point in time when the RFP is about to be sent out to everybody that needs it. We could get 30 of them back in a day. And if we do that, you have to give us time to go and work through each RFP. So you have to Becky is great, and I don't know what's going to happen to you. I don't know if you guys are aware. Dana Parker has left, and Becky Gray did take Dana's position. So I don't know how it's going to look going forward, but you do have to make sure, and Becky's always on top of the RFP, but again, you have to allow us some time in case we get a huge influx, in case someone gets sick. We just have to have that time, which usually much sooner than 3 to 4 weeks, but we do ask you to allow us that much time to look at those RFPs to ensure that that you did fill them out correctly. Because I will tell you, Becky can attest, there are very, very, very few, I'd say less than 1% of the RFP sent in every year that does not need at least 1 or 2 corrections to it. Your RFP is always going to get sent back to you for the most part to have a correction or 2 that we need. Sometimes your math is just off. Sometimes you forgot to put a number someplace. It's a big document. And so we try to give you instructions so you do fill out everything, but it's just a large document. So we understand that not everything is always going to be filled out or filled out correctly. So once it is approved, Becky will let you know. And at that point, you can go out for bid. You do have to place an advertisement for your RFP in a public forum. You do need to put it in a newspaper, and then you can put it in any other place that the school advertises, maybe on your school website. We're also going to have you send out the contract to at least 3 food service management companies. So you're going to send it to 3 food service management companies. You're going to put an ad in the paper, and then you can also advertise any other place that you normally do advertising. Issue the RFP to anybody who has a request for it. And then USDA highly recommends at least 60 days between advertising and the opening of the RFP. Now, our office, we have allowed for a minimum of 30 days, but USDA really does like it to be 60 days. So that way because here's the deal. We have several food service management companies in the state of Oklahoma, but if you send them an RFP and then you expect them to turn around and look at this 80-page document and then to turn around and give you response in a week, it's really, that's not fair for the food service management company either. They really need to look at all of your information so they can make a bid that they feel would be beneficial to you and to the district and to the food service management company. Because it's a lot of work and they may have gotten 30 different RFPs. So you have to give people time to look at the information that you gave them to be able to give you a bid. This is an example of an advertisement for an RFP, and I know Becky will send something out. Really with the RFP, when you advertise, it's like, the big thing you need to do is like, when is that contract due back to you? When are you doing the bid opening? But Becky does send out, we have an example that she sends out that you can use to help you write your advertisement. So by federal regulatory requirements, you do have to allow for free and open competition. Because this is an RFP, it is a formal procurement. So it does not matter if your food service management company contract, if you pay under $250,000 per year, this is an RFP, so you are required to do federal procurement at that point. We are doing a procurement workshop on Thursday at 1 p.m. It's about a 2-hour. So if you do want more information on that, but you will be doing formal procurement with this RFP, and we help walk you through that process. Because it is a little bit overwhelming, especially if you were a small school district and you've never done any formal before. And when we were doing procurement reviews, we have noticed that even people that have been doing formal for several years haven't always been doing it correctly. You do need to have transparency. So the district, you cannot restrict or eliminate competition. You can't place unreasonable requirements. If you can't require any unnecessary experience or excessive bonding, any conflicts of interest or any arbitrary actions in the process. This needs, again, to be full and open competition. You do need to have Buy American, which the Buy American clause is located in the RFP. But just so food service management companies are aware, the purchase of domestic food is required whenever you are doing anything with child nutrition on the school side for NSLP. So the pre-proposal. So what a pre-proposal is, you in the contract will decide if it's required or optional. So if you have been using a food service management company before for your district, you can make it optional to have a pre-proposal conference. And I understand with everything going on right now, you can do it on Zoom or FaceTime. Now, we would tell you if you've never gone with a food service management company before, you do need to have a pre-proposal conference. What that does is it's kind of a walkthrough, because if you've never gone with a food service management company before, you do need to allow the food service management companies to see your district. They need to see what kind of equipment what you have. They need to see how much space you have. They need to look to see what is available so they can know if they can bid. Some people will be like, we can't make this work for us, so we won't be able to bid on this. So if you have been with a food service management company, it is optional because you did a walkthrough, probably a different time, a pre-proposal visit. But if you have never been with one before and no one has ever seen what your school district looks like, you really do need to have the pre-proposal conference. You can ask for presentations for a vendor presentation. It is optional. Again, in the RFP, you will mark that either optional or required for a vendor presentation. And then you will want to schedule it about midway between the advertisement and when the proposal is due. Because they'll probably want to look at your proposal and then look at the walkthrough. And then if they have any questions, there's a question in the RFP that when questions are due back to you about what maybe things that they saw or any information that even in your RFP that they have questions about. So here's just a couple of the changes to the 2022-23 RFP. Now there's some things that are just clarifying some statements in there. USDA mentioned that they just thought the wording was a little bit So we tried to make the wording just a little bit more clarified. But we did have to clarify about direct billing. There is a part, this includes labor and items such as like cell phone and travel. There's a part in the RFP that you will or will not, that you may or may not reimburse for, say, cell phones and travel. If you do reimburse for that, it cannot be direct billed. You have to include that cost again in the fixed price per meal fee. So nothing can be direct billed. It doesn't matter if it's a cell phone bill, if it's travel, if it's labor, nothing can be direct billed. Now, some of the food service management companies are not going to be happy about this one, but when the employees go with the food service management company, we have a worksheet called 1-B and 2-B, and the food service management companies have not been filling this out. If labor is going with you, you have to fill that out and send it back to us. Also, a food service management company is required to break down their projected expenditures by category, which would be the basis of their fixed price bid. And this is based on cost information, which is on page 9 of the RFP. So we do have another worksheet in there that the food service management company is required to fill out about your projected expenditures. And then something else that was added to the RFP is salad bar. So it's on the site page. I think it's page like 52, 53, where you put like what programs each site participates in. And then there's a box that you can check salad bar. So even though you check salad bar on it, it doesn't mean that so say you have 5 sites and you want all of them to possibly have a salad bar, then you would put salad bar in each of them. But maybe after they come, it's like, okay, we only want it at the high school, not the elementary, but you still marked it in the RFP. That's fine that it's marked in the RFP. Again, you can change your mind later, say, no, it's too much, we don't want to do it. But if you don't mark it, then they're not needing to do it a salad bar because you did not mark it in the RFP. So again, that is on that page 52 or 53. I'm trying to remember which one that is on. But something else I will tell you about it being a Word document is because it's a Word document, it will move a little bit. The pages will move down just a little bit. You're not going to be typing a lot in there, but we tried to make it to where if the page numbers may change just a tiny bit based on when you type like your school district name and your county code and information like that. Okay. So once the RFP is obtained, so the food service so the district fills it out, you send it out for bid, and then now you obtain the RFP from food service management companies. So what happens? So you receive your proposals, you open it on the deadline, the date and time that you indicate in the RFP. Now, because it's an RFP, it's not a sealed bid. So that doesn't mean you go with the lowest price automatically. It's different. An RFP, you use an evaluation form. And on that evaluation form, you set in there in the RFP what points are worth. And price has to be worth the most points. But there's other factors to that. So what you do is you take your evaluation sheet, you give it to everybody on the team, and then everybody fills out the evaluation sheet. And then when you guys come together, it kind of decides who you think you're going to use. You are allowed to negotiate. If you negotiate, you have to mark it in the RFP that you will negotiate, and then you have to mark how many you will negotiate with. Even if you have one, we've had some people put in there that they will negotiate, but only with the top 1. So maybe you do have 3 that send it back to you. You're going with the one that that your district that per the evaluation form that you all selected, but you can still negotiate with that top one that you're using, as long as you mark in the RFP that you will negotiate. But if you do not mark that, then you cannot negotiate. This is just an example of the evaluation. You can create your own form. Here's an example. I think this is, oh no, it's not an example. So I do think I have an example in here. I'm trying to remember, like I said, I kind of have COVID brain right now. That I have in here, but we will definitely be going through the evaluation when we go through the RFP of how to fill that out. You have to, so for instance, in the RFP, you'll put price worth 50 points. And then maybe you put quality or innovativeness. you put that as 25 points. And then you have to change the points. So for instance, we've had some people that, let's say in your RFP, you award price as being 50 points. And you have 3 companies that submit a bid to you and they all give you a different price. Well, the one that gives you the cheapest price, you have to give them the most points. You can't give everybody the exact same points, especially if they give you 3 different prices. We've seen that. And I will tell you, you have to be very fair when you're doing this. We've had several companies, food service management companies, that after you award the bid, they ask to see your evaluations and they can ask for that information. And we've had it to where, again, they have gave the same number of points to everybody, which they shouldn't have done. And that food service management company can protest that bid. So just, again, you need to be very fair whenever you are going through the RFP process. Because again, you can have somebody come back and protest that bid if you did not, and it happens quite a bit. I think we're seeing it more and more. I'd say at least 2 or 3 a year. We've had food service management companies contact us about, so what happens in that area is you as a district have protest procedures and you have to follow your protest procedures. That's what we tell them. We tell the school district, follow your protest procedures, and then the food service management company, they will file a protest with your district. Some things that are unallowable during the RFP process is, again, you cannot allow a potential contractor to write the bid or proposal terms, like product specifications, procurement procedures, and contract terms. And I will tell you, we've had it in the past where, say, someone writes the RFP, sends out the RFP, and then that person awards it, and then they go work for that food service management company. So you really need to watch out. If you plan on, saying, leaving your district and working for a food service management company, I just highly suggest maybe you have somebody else that is doing the RFP and you stay out of it if you are planning on working for a food service management company. You cannot allow a potential contractor to evaluate the bids or proposals submitted by competitors. Delegating bid proposal acceptance or recommendations for acceptance to a potential contractor competing on the procurement. So you need it, again, you have to be very fair in this process. Again, they can protest if they feel that something has not happened. And if something did happen, you do need to, I'm trying to think of the right term to use for procurement, is you can, what do we call it? When you don't look at that contract because maybe it was a potential contractor. You cannot allow a potential contractor to access the sealed bid information before it's publicly opened, or disclosing the content of the proposed offer submitted by others to a potential supplier prior to submitting an offer, and accepting a food service management company proposal after all bids are publicly read. So if you state in your RFP that you want all of your RFPs due back by, say, February 14th by 5 p.m. and you have someone submit to you one by 6 p.m., you cannot look at that RFP. They did it after the deadline, so you cannot look at that. Now, negotiations can only take place, again, if it's indicated in the RFP. Determine what parts of the RFP are negotiable. Negotiate proposed contract terms, select the proposal that best meets the price and the criteria, and then you will notify the awardee. So once the contract is awarded, I will tell you in the RFP, I did not put that in that list. So one thing that we did add to the RFP this year is if you do select both SFA and food service management company employees, or that the food service management, once an employee leaves the district, that the food service management company can take on those employees. We did add in the RFP that you can select yes or no, the district will allow for a transition plan. So it will now be in the RFP, you do not have to submit a separate addendum stating that when the employees leave that the district will allow a transition plan. So what that means, if you're new or don't know what that is, so what happens is when an employee leaves the district, and in your RFP, you say once they leave the district, they're going to be a food service management company employee. What happens is sometimes the food service management company will be like, here's the deal. We'll pay you per meal price. Let's say they say it's going to be $2.75. But for every employee that leaves your districts, and then for every employee that we hire in replacement, we're going to charge you an additional 10 cents per employee. So they cannot charge you that additional 10 cents until someone leaves. So say 1 year they have 2 employees leave, then they'll start charging you 20 cents because for each employee that leaves, they're going to charge 10 cents that the food service management company will take over. Now, the school does not have to go by that. The school could be like, no, we have a fixed price. It's said in the RFP that when that person leaves that you will take over it. So then you need to include that in the fixed price fee, and then we're not going to pay any additional fixed price fee over that. So you do not have to accept a transition plan. You can be like, no, the fixed price is the fixed price. And you knew what you were getting into when you took over the employee. So that is up to the district. So you no longer have to send in an addendum, but you do need to let us know what the transition plan is. So for instance, we do need to know if it's not, since it's in the RFP, that you will allow for a transition plan. If you allow for one and they do take, say it's 10 cents per employee that leaves, you do need to let us know that, because we have to make sure that the food service management company is going to charge you correctly. We look at your invoices when we do a procurement review. So we do need to know what that transition fee is. So once we get your contract and everything looks in place, you send it to our office. We approve your RFP. So once we accept your RFP, then you submit it to your board if you require to have them sign it. You can't do it the opposite. We have to approve it first before your board signs it. You can't go opposite. So again, once you get your RFPs back and you have the one that you're going to use, you have to submit it to our office, because we have to look over the RFP again to make sure there's been no changes. Then your board will sign it. Once it's been signed, you have 10 days to send us a copy of the signatures. Meals prepared by the food service management company cannot be claimed prior to this date. So if you do it opposite, you cannot pay the food service management company with child nutrition funds until we approve it. So if you start going with them before we approve it, you cannot pay them using child nutrition funds. You have to pay them using general funds. So we have to approve everything with our office. It's very much, we are in control of a lot of the situation. So we have to make sure that nothing was changed. Any violations of free and open competition will make the proposal non-responsive. And that's the word I was looking for earlier. So again, it's non-responsive. If they submit something to you after the deadline, again, it's also non-responsive. If the contract was already awarded, the SFA must rebid the contract. If the violation occurred prior to the award of the contract, the food service management company's proposal will be considered ineligible. So once the district signs and submits the paperwork, you have the base contract checklist, non-deligible duties, and the independence price determination form. So every year around renewal time, you'll be able to, that's at the only time that the price can change. The district will submit paper copies of the demarment form, the lobbying certification, and the lobbying activities that are signed by the food service management. So part of the RFP, and we have it listed in the instructions. So there's a lot of the paperwork that you fill out, and there's a lot of things that are not, and there's not a lot, but there's several items that won't be filled out until after it is awarded. So some federal requirements: in order to use nonprofit school food service account, the SFA, the district must have a proper contract and follow, again, proper procurement procedures. And then the district must have the contract reviewed and approved by us prior to signing with the food service management. A food service management company may not be paid using funds from the nonprofit food service account prior to receiving final approval from us. So again, if you're ever in any doubt in any order, again, we try to create steps and tell you the process, but if you're ever unsure, please contact us. Because we'd rather you do it correctly than we would hate for you to do something and then you can't use child nutrition funds because maybe, you accidentally had the board approve it first and then send it to us for approval. So if you are ever in any doubt, please contact us, contact Becky Gray, and we'll let you make sure that you know what steps, that you're following the steps correctly for this process. Again, no contract can be executed by any party without prior written approval from the state agency. Again, money from the nonprofit food service account must not be used to pay the food service management company until the contract is approved. We don't see this a whole lot, but again, we just want you to be aware that it is very important that you have to get our approval first. So now the partnership. So now that all the documents and contracts have been approved by us and the school and the food service management company, it's really a partnership between the district and the food service management company. At no time will the district relinquish control of any part of the food service. Again, the school district is always in control. The school's the one that decides. So I'm just marking things that we've heard in the past. So let's just say, for instance, at your district, you've always had it to where pre-K, first grade, pre-K, kindergarten, and first grade are always straight serve and everybody else is offer versus serve. Well, you may mark offer versus serve in your RFP, but it is still up to the school district what grades you want offer versus serve and what you don't. It is the school district. They have complete control of the program. It is their decision. It is not the food service management company. It is the school. Again, we talked about salad bar. Maybe you mark in the RFP that you want every site to have a salad bar, and then you're later like, no, we only want salad bar for the high school. And that's fine. It's the school's decision of where they want, what they want, and where they want it at. All food service management company contracts run through June 30th. It is the responsibility of the district to monitor the contract to ensure the contract is being followed. You are required to monitor the food service management company. All contracts and renewals must be received and approved by the state agency before you can go forward with that. So all the renewals are done in July. If we do not get a renewal form from you, then we are under the assumption that you're going back to self-op, because if we do not have a renewal form, and you're self-op, again, you cannot pay child nutrition funds for the food service management company unless we have a copy of that renewal. Again, all contracts and renewals are only good for 1 year. So maybe after year 1, you're like, this is not really what we intended. So you can go back to self-op. Again, after, and you can even do it in the middle of the year, but most of the time you're going to finish out the year because it's just way too much to maybe go self-op. We've heard a lot of correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm hearing a lot of mumblings about a lot of people maybe going back to self-op. So you can go back to self-op at any time. Again, you can also go with the food service management company at any time. It is easier to really start the process in January if you want to go with the food service management company for the next year, because again, you remember you have all these steps. If you send us an RFP and expect to be using a food service management company by next month, that's not going to happen, because again, you have to follow all the steps. You have to have an advertisement in the paper for at least a minimum of 30 days. You have to give our office about 2 to 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks to look at the RFP before you can even go out on bid. So it's not an easy, quick process. You have to give everybody a lot of time and steps to be able to look at the RFP. Make sure that everything in the RFP is correct. Give time for the food service management companies to bid on that and get it back to you. So that way you get a good price, because if you try to rush it, the price could be way off just because they didn't have time to really get you a good bid on that contract. Also, all contracts may be renewed via an addendum for a maximum of 4-year renewal. So your total contract can be a contract of up to 5 years. The renewal addendum must be on the district letterhead. And again, you can only use the CPI index for annual price increase or decrease. The CPI is a percentage, and we use, I believe it's March, is the CPI that we look at. And the SFA or the food service management company can decide not to renew the contract at any time. It can go either or. And again, just because if you're a district and say the food service management company is like, yeah, we want to increase the price by 2%, and they could, maybe let's say the CPI is 2.5%. And the food service management company comes up and says, we want to increase the price by 2%, but you do not want to increase the price. You do not have to increase the price. It has to be a mutual agreement between the food service management company and the district. I will tell you, I have seen some contracts where even the CPI can be an increase or a decrease. And we have seen several school districts where the price did actually lower, not increase. So negotiate that. Again, you don't have to negotiate that if you don't want to. It is up to the school district if you do want to have an increase. I'm sure you'll always take the decrease in price, but you do not have to increase the price. It is an agreement. So you both have to agree on that in order for the price to be increased each year. Now let's talk about responsibilities. Now, this is one, schools, please pay attention, because again, a lot of schools will wipe their hands of child nutrition program. So it is the school's responsibility to monitor. We have a monitoring form that is in the resource slide, or I'm sorry, it's in other documents under food service management company. It's also in the RFP, but you must monitor the food service operation periodically. We say at least once a year, but you can do it more than that. Review and approve menus. So again, they are not really allowed to change the menus, or I've heard this a lot too. It's like, well, the kids aren't eating this. Well, tell them, then they need to change the menu. Tell them, don't serve this anymore. Our kids are not eating it. The school has control of the menus, the meal counts, meal patterns, and I have no idea what this and many other, I don't know what that was supposed to be, but you guys, the school district does have control over like the meal patterns, and you guys could say, no, our kids will not eat this. We want this to be served. This is an example of the monitoring form. Again, this is in the RFP, and we have a copy of this in other documents under the food service management company. Again, at least one time per year, you do have to monitor the food service management company. It has to be a district employee that does the monitoring form. You can't have a food service management company employee monitor the food service management company. That you guys try that sometimes, and you can't do that. You have to have a school employee fill out that form. So you do have to have one for lunch and for breakfast. There's also the on-site form, so we don't want you to get confused. So we have the food service management company form. That's one form. The other form that we have is the on-site review form, and that is if you're multi-sited. You are required to do the multi-site. So if you have multiple eating sites, you're required to do every lunch. So if you have 5 sites, you do every lunch every year, and then breakfast, you can do 50% of the sites. But again, one is for the school district monitoring the food service management company. You can do that at minimum of 1 time per year. You can do it more than that. But then you have on the other side, the on-site review form, and that is if you're multi-sited. So you have to do both of those if you have a food service management company and you have multiple eating sites. So some people got confused between that they thought that they just had to do one or the other. And if you're with the food service management company, you always have to do the food service management company monitoring form. But if you have multiple eating sites, you're also required to the on-site review form. So, and we talked about that in ABVM. Some of the other responsibilities for the district is to review your USDA food utilization. A lot of you are not doing this. You need to make sure that they're using your commodities. You need to make sure that you are getting credited correctly. So, because we've seen some in the past where schools were calling us and like, they're not using our USDA foods. Make sure that they're using your USDA foods. Make sure that they are crediting you correctly for your USDA foods. The school district is the one that establishes all meal and a la carte prices, not the food service management company. Again, that's the district. The school district, what you do is you need to review your edit checks. What happens is at the end of the month, then you give your edit checks to the food service management company, and that's how they bill you. So we see a lot of issues with this when we're looking at the invoices. Your invoices and your claim need to match. It needs to match your edit check. So if it doesn't match your edit check, then you have a problem. So you need to find out where the food service management company is getting their numbers. They should be getting it from you, from your edit check. You need to develop a food service budget and review your monthly profit and loss statements and support documents. So what a lot of people, what I kind of talked about earlier is, say the food service management company charges you $3.50. And again, it's for every meal. We went out to some schools and they're like, well, yeah, no, they charge us $3.50, but they think it's only for the free kids. No, if you have 50% of your kids are paid and you're getting a reimbursement, say 30 cents per child or 33 cents. And I know it's different because of the SSO and stuff like that right now. But when we go back to regular accounting and claiming, they're charging you $3.50 for every single meal. It doesn't matter if you're getting reimbursed $3.50 or if you're getting reimbursed 30 cents. So you need to make sure, are you losing money by using a food service management company, or is it helping you out? You really do need to weigh the benefits and the consequences of using a food service management company. I've had several that went back self-op, and it's because they did not really think about when they're being billed for meals, that they are billing them for every single meal served, not just the free kids, that you're getting billed the same price for every meal, regardless of how you're claiming for it. It's also the district's responsibility to create procurement procedures, to conduct verification, direct certification, to obtain the homeless, runaway, and migrant student lists, because that comes from the district liaison. The school district is the one responsible for the charge policy, and it is also the school district to pursue student debt. Now, we have had some issues in the past. We had a food service management. It's been a few years since I've heard this, so I don't know if it's still a problem. But the school district, you have your charge policy. The food service management company has to follow that charge policy. So if you say that they can only have 5 charges, then the food service management company has to abide by that. We've seen it in the past where a school district did have a charge policy of, say, 5 charges, and the food service management company was not adhering to that and letting the kids just keep charging and charging and charging. So you do have to make sure, again, the school district is in full control. They need to be adhering to your policies and procedures, to the district's policies and procedures. So that would be something else that you would want to give them at the beginning, to if they have questions about, like, whenever they're filling out or bidding on your RFP. Maybe your charge policy is another good one. The district is also responsible to maintain the free and reduced eligibility information. The school is responsible for developing and implementing the local wellness policy. The school district has to also have a food service advisory board. And again, you have to meet at least once or twice a year. And this is the one that your teachers, parents, students, you do have to meet. There's been questions on the procurement review about this. You still have to meet. You can do it via Zoom, you can do it FaceTime, but you still need to meet. And this is where you go over the menus, go over the things that you want to see changed in your with what the food service management company is doing. But we do ask to see this information during a procurement review. So that team is always going to come into play. The district is also responsible for certifying the claim for reimbursement, again, to review USDA commodity credits and to validate the actual monthly invoice to food service management companies' billing. Again, their invoice, the attachment M, the food service management company invoice, should match your edit check. You need to be giving them a copy of your edit check for them to bill you. So you need to make sure they match. If they don't match, it's a problem. And quite often or not, they don't match when I've been looking at them during a procurement review. So make sure that they are charging you correctly. And again, nothing can be directly billed. Nothing can be outside of that fixed priced fee. So food quality, no payment made to a food service management company for meals that are spoiled, unwholesome, and do not meet the specification developed by the district. And the district outlines the grade and quality of products in the RFP, and these must be followed by the food service management company. You are allowed to write specifications. So if you have a certain chicken nugget your kids like, or if there's certain things, you are, as a school district, can tell them exactly what food that they need to serve. But you do need to have your specifications put into the RFP, but it is allowable that you do that. So again, if you have certain food items that you do want served, you can write specifications and include that with your RFP, and then they will have to bid on that. You can't add it after the fact. You have to do it during the bidding process. Professional standards, both employees of the district and the food service management company must comply with requirements contained with professional standards. Consider adding points to the award criteria, maybe for training requirements. So in the evaluation, there's 3 items set in there, but you guys can add your own items. You can add training, training provided. You can add points for training. You can cross things out. Again, price has to be the biggest factor why you will use a food service management company, but you can add anything else in there. And again, training is a really good one that you might want to add to your evaluating. Only a district has the authorized representative that can certify a claim. It cannot be done by a food service management company employee. It has to be done by the school. When it does come to professional standards too, both of you are required to have a director. So you both have to have 12 hours. The school decides who their director is, and then the food service management company will also have a director when it comes to professional development hours. So we went through all the schools. The school has quite a bit of responsibility. Again, a lot of schools feel that, oh, we're using a company now, we can wipe our hands clean, but that's not the case. So we went over everything that the school is responsible for. So now let's go over what the food service management company is responsible for. They provide in contract monthly profit loss statements as provided, menus, production sheets, portion sizes for designated menu plan options, provide and implement proper monetary collection methods, and they can train the employees. Provide acceptable meal counting and accountability methods, assistance with the AR review, like with documentation, provide documentation regarding nutrition content of foods that are served. So, and maybe that's something you want to add to your addendum too, that they always have to supply a nutrition facts label. Maybe you have kids with diabetes. So there's other things that you can have them provide for you as well. Here's some also possible other services that a food service management company can provide. Analysis of trends and participation reports, support services such as a dietitian or a chef, personnel management, nutrition education, promotions, and regular presentations to school boards and other groups. Now, the food service management company they're responsible. So when we come out to do an AR, to do a review, we have to have a non-program food report documentation from the food service management company. We have to know the cost of a reimbursable meal and that of a non-program foods. It is required. We've been asking for this now for about maybe 4 years, but we do have to have this for the review. Revenue, again, from non-program foods and the total revenue. Again, we have to have this for the review. This is a copy of attachment M. So the attachment M is required for the food service management company to give you. This is what they bill you on. And we're going to go over one. Also, on the attachment M, I sent you guys, or in the handouts, there is an example. The example is also out on other documents under the food service management company. So it might make it easier. But again, The attachment M needs to follow along with your edit check for the most part. If an item is not listed in the RFP and not all management companies had a chance to bid on it, it cannot be done. Direct billing cannot be done at all. Everything charged to the district, again, must be in that fixed price per meal charge. And an example of like it really should not be done, so we have what's called a material change. So anything over $150,000 of the contract, that's called a material change. If you go over that material change, then you will need to rebid. Again, no item can be added or replaced if it would constitute a material change, meaning go over that $150,000. So that's why we say, please, in your RFP, mark everything that you think you may possibly want to do. Even if you don't think you want to do it, we've always told people in the previous years, always mark like SSO, SFSP, mark them all. And then whenever it all happened with COVID, there's a lot of people that did not hit SSO. So we just say, please just mark every program and then you're safe. Because the problem is would a responder have bid differently if you had it in the RFP at the time? So that's what a material change is. Some also things about possible material changes is if you add or remove a program or a site, if you combine with or leave another district, maybe you're changing from a 4-day to a 5-day-a-week school, some budget impacts, possible material changes could be that you want to do CEP, or maybe you're adding at risk. So when you do these material changes, we will be asking for some expenditures with that to see what what you think the material change is going to be. If you add a program after the contract is approved, child nutrition funds cannot be paid to use the food service management company until an amendment is sent and approved by our office. So let's just say you did not have CACFP marked in your RFP, and then you decide that next year you want to do it. Well, you cannot do it until you tell us that you're wanting to add it to the RFP, and we'll give you steps. But if you do, if you add it, then you have to pay child nutrition back for the meals that you paid the food service management company for a program that we did not accept. You have to have everything approved. I mean, we have to know everything that is going on between you and the food service management company in our office. So if you don't do that, and again, if you have any questions, always call us first and we will tell you the process instead of just doing it. And then you find out later, oh, we've been doing CACFP for 3 years. I didn't know we had to let you know, because that will become a problem. And it has been happening quite a bit. You have to let us know if you have any changes. So when you are filling out, again, that RFP, make sure you plan for your next 5 years. If you want to add programs eventually, even if you're like, we never qualify for fresh fruit and vegetable, just mark it in there. Who knows? But at least you'd rather be safe than sorry. If the State Department agrees, so let's say you add a program, you have to indicate if it is or is not a material change. And then if we agree that you can do it, then you can proceed with the program. If we say, no, this will be a material change, the food service management contract must be rebid to add that program. So again, I can highly recommend if you're going out for rebid or if you're going to bid, just mark every single program on the RFP just to be safe. Okay. Changes in the contract, any changes must be in writing and sent to us again for approval. Again, adding a program not marked in the food service, the original RFP. If you're not renewing with the food service management company, so say you want to go back to self-op, please send us something telling us you're going to self-op. And then again, if you want to renew the contract, if you want to renew, then you do need to again send it to us in writing that you do plan on renewing with XYZ food service management company for fiscal year 22-23. And this all takes place around May to July, anytime around that time frame. That's when we do renewals. So contract renewal agreements, if the state agency does not receive, again, a renewal agreement, we are assuming that you're going back to self-operational. And child nutrition funds cannot be paid to the food service management company without that renewal agreement. Now, I will tell you in the past years, the last 2 years, we are requesting these renewal agreements before we'll even approve your application, which has helped out quite a bit, because we were not getting very many of these. But that is required. If whatever you want to continue to do for the next year, we have to have it in writing, whether you are going to go with them or you're not. We need to know. And again, something big, the district remains responsible for the program operations, and you cannot relinquish control of the program to the food service management company. Our contract, when we come out to do a review, is with the district. So again, the district is in charge, and you have to make sure that the food service management company is doing what they stated that they would be doing, and also billing you what they say that they'd be billing you. And I've seen it quite a bit. Sometimes I've been to districts where you have, like, say, you have two renewals. Like, say you do a renewal and then you're like, no, we change on a different price. We're going to charge this price. And I'll go out there and what you're charging is different than the renewal that we have. So make sure we have the correct forms of what is being charged. So the attachment M, which you guys did get a copy of. Do you guys have any questions? You guys have been very, very quiet. I hope I'm just not rambling. And Jennifer and Becky, do you guys have any other things to add to this right now? Well, I take a drink, or any other consultants that are on, or I'm sorry, program specialists. Anything that you see. Now we're going to go through the attachment M. And again, the attachment M is based off of your edit check. So at the end of the month, you need to be giving the food service management company a copy of your edit check, because right here, if you can see where my cursor is, and this is how they bill you. And this number right here needs to match your claim, aka your edit check, and your lunches need to match, again, your edit check. Again, how many days in operation, and then this right here needs to match your edit check. Now, contract meals, they would go up here if you had them. Do not put adult meals up here. Adult meals do not go in this area. This is only for breakfast, summer feeding breakfast, SSO, SSP is SSO, and CACFP breakfast, and any contract meals. Adult meals do not go in this section. So right here at the top, they added, this is from their edit check, and they listed here the total number of breakfast, the total number of lunches, and then down here, this is the total number of breakfast, and it's, you take the total number of breakfast and divide it by 2. So they take this 3,558, divide it by 2, and you get this number right here. And then you add your lunches, which is the total number of lunches right here, and you get your lunch equivalent based on meal counts. Okay, so this is the top section again. This goes based on your edit check. It has to match your edit check. Give them a copy of your edit check. That's how they're billing you. If they want to give you different numbers, you need to ask them, where did you come up with these numbers? But it needs to go based on your edit check. So now at the bottom of attachment M, this is all revenue. This is your total revenue for adult meals and your total revenue of a la carte. Now, adult revenue should be the total the district should have received. So I'm just kind of making up some numbers right now, but let's state that you are charging your adults $4 a meal, and you had 50 adults that ate. So you need to take 50 times $4. Maybe you had 30 of those charged, but only 20 of those actually paid you the $4. You still have to tell us the total revenue if they all paid. It is the district's responsibility to get the money from the teachers, and you may get it in like 3 months, but it is your responsibility to get the money. But when it comes to the total revenue, you need to put the total revenue is if you collected it from everybody. That would be your total revenue. So this would be the total revenue you should have received if every adult paid. And then this is your total amount for your a la carte. So then you take that total, which is right here, which is $535.35 for this month. So what you do is you take your lunch equivalents from, I'm sorry, here's your total extra CMP revenue that came right here. You divide it by your lunch rate on page 12. This amount right here is in your RFP. So this will not really change unless you agree upon it changing in the renewal agreement. And again, it can change, but per the CPI. If you do not want this to change, this is going to be the same amount for the next 5 years, or however long you're on that contract with that RFP. So this rate, so you take the total revenue that you get from this right here, and then this comes from page 12 in your RFP. And what this price usually is, I haven't figured it for this year yet, but so for this year, it will be the lunch rate plus the rate of commodities plus the 7 cents. It's always for that 1 year, it's the same price. And again, this will stay the change unless you agree upon in your renewal that you don't mind if this goes up by the CPI as well. But that's where this rate comes from. And then so you take this amount and divide it by that lunch rate, and it gives you this 134.510. This is a lunch equivalency. These are very weird terms, I know, but this is just how USDA requires you to be billed. So you take your total revenue, divide it by the lunch rate, and you get this lunch meal equivalency. Well, at the bottom, we take our lunch equivalency from the very top. This is from our lunches and breakfasts that were served. That was based off of your edit check. And then your breakfast, divide that by that too, that you got from the top section. Then you add this lunch equivalency from your revenues. And then that equals the 6508.51. It's your grand total of lunch equivalency. And then down here, you take your total lunch equivalency, and then this is by your bid award amount. This is the amount the food service management company told you they were going to charge you per meal. And then that will be your total, and that's how much you will get invoiced down here. So again, make sure that top matches your edit check. If it doesn't, you need to have it corrected. And if they're getting different numbers, you need to ask them where they're getting that number from, because it does need to match your edit check. It needs to be based on your meal counting and claiming numbers. So do you guys have any questions about the attachment M? That's probably the biggest thing I see errors with when I was doing procurement reviews, is not being billed correctly. And that's it. You guys were very quiet today. It makes me very nervous.